Welcome back to episodes 4 of
Nine.
Yeah,
Nine.
4.
I wish it were four.
Oh man. No,
Simpler
it's
times.
yeah, you know what? Coming off the back of a loss, it's not all that great, but here we are. Yeah, a couple days later trying to revisit this weekend. All you faithful listeners out there, you've been waiting and waiting very patiently for this to come out. Uh so why don't we get into it? What a game, huh?
I still feel a little like hungover from it. Didn't even drink and I feel hungover from it.
Well,
It left a bitter taste in my mouth. Um, I didn't
It
feel good
ruined
about it.
no, it ruined my whole weekend.
this is hysterical. Uh, I agree with I somewhat agree with all of your sentiments. And talking to other Tottenham buddies, they couldn't believe it either. I thought it was better than the last couple weeks. I
I would
I
need you to dive into that a little bit further. What
Yeah,
was
and I
Yeah,
better?
I
don't
have
know.
I
I
have
I
absolutely no so I defended us last week. This
I
week
know you've
there's no
defended us the last couple of weeks.
it's indefensible.
Yes, but in I think there were just moments throughout that game, and I think there are bits and pieces of the first half that I'm specifically referring to, where we like our progress of play was actually pretty good. We got into the final third and it was dog shite, but there were moments where I was like, we're possessing the ball, we're able to move it from the back to the front, like that final third, and we got there and it was miserable and we were terrible. But there was some more, like, there were greater glances of where we are trying to get to. Again, nothing was complete and it wasn't all that good, but I could see, like, okay, if we could finish, this would look really good. Or maybe if we would have had Udogi and Poro out there, it might be a little bit
Oh,
better. But
it would have
I
been way
I thought
better.
Davies was probably one of the better guys that we had out there
Yeah, which is
last week.
fine, but that's not saying a lot. And I think
No,
that's the difference in the last couple of games. It was all just sort of meh.
but
There was a lack of effort, there was a lack of urgency, there was a lack of I mean, it just feel like I can't believe that they look tired playing one game a week. And that's the way it appeared to me.
And I felt like we had more rest this game than we had in the last few weeks. It was
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the same thing that you were saying, and I look at this at the stats, and I see 15 to 12 shots on goal or shots, 4 to 7 shots on goal, and this is us to them. We had 72%
yeah,
possession. We had almost 2.5 times the number of passes with an enormous amount of accuracy.
of
10,
inaccuracy,
10
inaccuracy.
of accuracy, 88% accuracy versus 71 for them. And there were 10 corners for us versus 4. So maybe we should be concentrating more on, you know, on set plays. Why can't we score on those as opposed to open play? Everybody else seems to be able to.
Absolutely. Or
I
why
just
do I
don't
freak out every time the set play is against us? Like,
I don't feel like there was a concerted effort. I think everybody was just kind of walking. And I think that's the difference that I felt from the last couple of weeks. It just seemed kind of blah, meh, which is fine. I mean, you're gonna have days like that, but
I
you
I
shouldn't.
I don't
You
think it's
shouldn't.
fine. I don't think playing meh is fine. Walking and all that kind of stuff that you said
yeah,
is effort is the only thing that you can apply. I mean,
well,
you'd
you're
feel
right.
differently if they were applying effort and it was bad. I didn't feel like there was effort, like you said, and I don't think that's okay. I
Yeah,
would be
you're
And
very
right.
it's
upset
and it and
if I was
it's
Ange.
it to piggyback off what you're saying too. It's from guys that you would expect to see the effort from. That it's just like your James Madison. Again, he was recently hurt. He had like two good touches that entire game. I mean,
I think
Yeah,
the
I think
same could
he
be said, and it starts with Sonny. I felt like Sonny was bad, not
but
good.
all right, as fans, it maybe Dad, you too, Sam, could probably back us up with this. we have these conversations quite frequently with Sonny.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
where he goes off and we don't see him for a long periods of time, and then all of a sudden he scores a goal, and all of a sudden he's this world beater again.
Yeah, no,
When it's like there's
I
not
say that all the
consistent enough
time.
play in order to sort of. And again, love the guy, a fantastic talent. I don't want to say too many bad things about him, but like we have these conversations too many times where it's like, where was he?
I know. I mean, you could say that about everybody, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, well, you can. Well, but not everybody is getting the
And
same praise. Not everybody is getting the same
well,
praise.
Madison gets praised, and I feel like the last couple of games, even since he's come back, I don't feel like he's been very beneficial. I don't think like he's been very progressive, helpful. He had that one touch to Richie when he scored the goal, but like I don't really feel like he's been doing much. And maybe that's just the way he's being defended. Now, I can't dismiss the fact that it did appear that, or does appear that Wolves have our number, and they do play extremely well. And you can't diminish the effort that they put into it. They clearly had a good game plan. They clearly had our number. We clearly don't know how to break that low block or whatever you call it when they get 10 men behind the ball. We just don't know what to do with that. We don't have the players to deal with, take people on one-on-one and challenge that defensive posture.
Do you I mean, you mentioned the idea of like not having the players, but I think too with just maybe some time and players, like again, you watch Man City, they're putting they're putting players in position to make certain plays, and we're not there yet. We're not the way we're passing the ball is just, it's dog shit, but we're not anticipating anything. It's just we're going with the flow.
I think there is something to the when you see 88% accuracy, that I think that belies, some of the key passes are not being completed. Like, okay, you can, passes between,
Romero and
Vicario. I mean, yeah, they're gonna count, but they don't really mean a whole heck of a lot in case of them. But like Kulusevski, there were some balls near the end of the game. He was trying to put like Sonny through, and I forget who was up, and there was no way they were going to be completed.
No, it reminded me of like playing FIFA, and like you want to play a through ball, and all of a sudden you tap X, and it's just like you dink it to the other person.
Yeah,
like it's
but
not.
You mentioned Man City, and they played Brentford yesterday, I think, and they only scored one goal, and it was because of a misplay by a defender. It was a pretty lucky win. And, they played, you say how beautiful it is. And it really was, they were fortunate to get out with a win as opposed to a draw. And
every dog has its day. You can agree with me though, like Man City on a whole.
Oh,
like the way they move the ball, they know where each other are going to be or should be. They can anticipate the passes. They can anticipate, like, we don't have that yet, and I feel like we need that with the system.
Well, they're farther into whatever you call the project.
Yes.
And they've definitely brought in the people that they need. We just, Postecoglou just hasn't had the time yet. I mean, it's still. So, and then even today, I watched the Liverpool
boys aren't Postecoglou out, are you? You Postecoglou out? Get him out of here?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't understand all that. I don't get it.
Well, there's the rumors of him wanting to go to Liverpool? It seems like every time I click on something,
I don't think he wants to. That's people saying that he will, but that he isn't. He's not. I don't think the rumor that he wants to, but there's a connection. But like even today, the first
disappeared after the last couple of games. The Twitterverse or whatever you call it.
That's because Thomas Tuchel is available, and then Alonso or whatever his name is available. So I think that's probably
whatever his name is. He's the best young coach out there right now.
And then, but like even today, the first half of the Liverpool game, they were down 1-0 against Luton at home, and it's like
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I mean, the Premier League is awesome. there is no other league where you have the quality of play from top to bottom like the Premier League.
So the reaction just, it's like they lost the game. Yeah, it's disappointing. We should have played better, but you lose a game. But I'm looking at the last 6 games. So 4 of the last 6 games were at home. We won 3 and lost 1. The 2 away games, we drew. I mean, you would think that on the surface, that's pretty darn good.
It's the eye test. We had this conversation last podcast, didn't we? It's just not looking like we did the first 10 games. It's that you're not seeing it. It's the lack of effort. It's the terrible passing.
And I think we talked about it a little bit the last podcast, but at least for me personally, it's a lot of my own expectations. I mean, we set the bar really high at the beginning of the season, then we were plagued with injuries. And then you think, man, if we could just get healthy again, then you start getting Madison back, you get Van de Ven, the team's looking closer to full strength, and your expectations, they come out and play like they were in the beginning of the season. And when that doesn't happen, I sort of get disappointed because my expectations were so high. Okay, we're poised to play like we should, and we don't, and that's frustrating. And then back to like the Ange philosophy of the high line, and we're going to give up goals so long as we create opportunities. It's like we're not creating those opportunities, holding that high line, and that final third is just so disappointing. It's not a Man City, and I wish it would be, but that it's just so like nobody's making that run. The balls are poor. I mean, as you know, the shots on goal are not great, and it's just like I want it to be tighter, and it's not, and I don't know when it's gonna be. And guys like Madison, expectations on him. He was Premier League Player of the Week multiple weeks, and it was like when he gets back to full strength, we're gonna have him back, and he's gonna play great again. And when he doesn't, we start to get these sentiments. We're like, oh, Madison looked kind of crappy.
Yeah, and part of that does come down to the player. I mean, if their player isn't playing as well as he did early, or maybe, defense, maybe the game plans have, I mean, I don't know the intricacies of like the game much, but maybe like they're defending him differently. Maybe they're, man marking him differently so that he's not able to do the things that he needs to do. But I definitely think we missed Poro and
For sure.
Udogie immensely. And that's not to dismiss, I love Ben Davies and I love
Emerson Royal.
I think they're great people. I think they're great people that you'd like to have around the team and around even, in the squad. But I don't think they're backs. I think they're center backs.
Yeah, you can't play him in the same system as Udogie and Poro.
But is that part of do you think that's something that Ange should recognize and like try something different? I mean, it was the same. It was the lineup that I anticipated him putting out there.
Yeah.
But could he have done something differently?
Yeah. I mean, the answer is yeah, of course he could have done something differently, but he's not. And that's right.
But no, but
like 2 months ago, we were like, yeah, this is fantastic. He's not going to back down. He's going to go no matter what. He's going to go forward.
I guess what I should say is, could he put somebody different in those positions? Not necessarily change the way he played. Well, why not? Why not put Skip? Why not put Skip at right back? Or why not?
I don't want to see any of that.
Why not?
I don't want because then it's just going to give me more ammo to be upset about the fact that we still have some of these guys on the team. I don't think Skip is the wing back inverted role that like we need. Again, you putting Skip in that position, you're going to have to then. The one thing that I think Royal brought that was his defense. I thought he can't push the ball forward like Poro does. I get, but I thought that he had some defensive qualities that some of the other players don't have.
What about like Bentancur at left back, or what about trying something a little like mix it up a little bit, not be so predictable?
Yeah, go for it. I feel like that's
the only thing. That's the only criticism I would have. I don't really expect
You
him
know,
to change his system, but I think maybe change the personnel a little bit. I don't know.
my issue though is, so like I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the conversation when we were talking about James Madison and the success that he had at the beginning of the year. I would attribute a lot of that success to Basuma, and he is not the same player at all that he was at the beginning of the season. You don't have that sort of, I don't want to say like rock, but he's not the same player, and that whole, even Sar is going away and like missing from big chunks of the game. That like that middle three that was so successful at the beginning of the year isn't like you don't have the quality from sort of that defense to the offense that offensive side that we had before.
I still think part of that is because we didn't have Poro and Odogi. I mean, I found that like I did see that Sar was
Would
kind
you
of
say
ending
like
up on the wings.
last game we had Poro? Would you say that Basuma had a good game?
Well, he didn't start. Bentoncourt started. So
No,
I don't.
that was 2 games ago, wasn't it? That
I
I
thought
could be mixing
Bentoncourt
them up.
started. So I don't really know that that's relevant, but like I feel like I feel like there is an issue. You know, he had freaking malaria. He's probably still impacted by malaria. And then I do think that him being, he probably, this social media thing, I don't know if it's how they view it and how they react to it as a player. But like when he was suspended for whatever 6 games or however many times it's been, he probably is reluctant to go into challenges. He's probably reluctant to like do the things that he was doing that first 10 games because of the backlash and because of the reliance that the system seems to have on him. And he needs to just free himself up a little bit, just let it go.
You're not wrong, but if he lets it go and gets a red card, then he's out 5 games. 5 games is his next sort
No,
of
4, I
reprimand.
think.
No, I think it's 5 games. I think you need to go check it out. I think he's at
No,
5
because I think
games.
it was 3 in the first half, and then I think he has to sit out 4 in the second half if he gets another one. But I may be wrong.
I thought I heard somebody saying 5 games. But I could be wrong too. I think, yeah, just not. I mean, even your offense, like Richie continues to. This is like 3 games in a row, where 4 games in a row, where I just feel completely unimpressed with what he's doing. Uh, yeah, we talked about Son, Hulu.
If I
Like,
think about the sort of lineup changes, when we went down 2-1, you just never got the sense that they were going to scratch and claw and make it level. I would have liked to see Timo come on a little earlier for some pace on the outside. Like he's cooked the last few games that he's started, and he's proven that he can play a lot. And to only come in with 20 minutes left or 19,
10 minutes.
whatever it was. I just looked. He came in at 71.
Oh, 71.
But like,
but then
that's where you talk about.
Who'd they bring out at 80?
It was at 85. It was Hoiberg and Lo Celso.
I mean, what difference? How are people?
I mean, that's desperation. Not a whole heck of a lot. But it
just maybe
we needed to bring in pace once we went down 2-1. I mean, It was like the previous game where they came in basically at half, and it was like, all right, let's press.
But that's the difference, I think, with when you play a team that plays that I say low block like I know what I'm talking about. When you play 10 men behind the ball, that pace that Timo has doesn't really help much because they're not getting the ball. They can't get the ball over the top. He has to then create, and he doesn't seem to be able to do that. You know, he doesn't have that in his locker, the one-on-one thing. So I'm not sure what the answer is. I mean, I think it's a matter of personnel. Ultimately.
The hope would be that, like, potentially on one of these, like a counterattack, that pace could be threatening, working the ball the way back from the back.
Well, yeah, but they don't let us counter. I mean, that's the whole game plan. But like, how would you feel about having Pedro Neto?
Yeah, Yeah, so I said that. I think I said that pre-game. I think
I
he'd
mean,
be a.
it's been weeks that he's been rumored to
Oh, has
be
he
on
been linked
our,
with Spurs?
yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think he would be. I think he would be great. I think a very welcomed addition. Um, but Sam, I think going back to what Sam was saying too. I think Johnson. I think we might have needed some of that energy a little bit too. Um, just that lack of energy. That's the That's I think as a fan, it's so frustrating, especially after the last couple seasons we've had with watching just
It felt
boring
like
soccer.
it felt a little like that.
But even watching what the Wolves were doing, that's what we were doing.
I know it
Sitting
wasn't
back and
terribly
waiting for that.
exciting,
You're waiting
but
for that counterattack, and all of a sudden, you're like, man, that was so boring. And then you got your manager at the end of the game saying, "Oh man, what a great game that was! Exactly what we wanted to happen." You're like, that sucked.
yeah, but they countered so well. And the thing is, we
Damn
defended
it.
so poorly. And I think that's one thing that we have to figure out is like, we can't make it so easy that like they can have 72% pass completion, such a low percentage of like possession, yet be so effective on the counter that like we have no defense for it.
No, no
So
corner
I don't
corner
know.
kicks are the new bane of my existence.
It's hard to like even pick it, to talk about any individual player, like we typically do. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because it was just sort of like,
I thought Vicario played well. Like if I'm
yeah,
gonna pick out, we got lucky that the score was what it was. I mean, even if I
yeah,
mean, I think some of those saves too might have been like an offsides play, but they were still sort of fantastic
yeah.
saves.
He's awesome. I mean, and I love his sort of his passion and enthusiasm and his leadership and
Yeah, no,
No,
I think if I also want to pick, not for player of the match or anything like that, but one thing that I've noticed about watching Van de Ven is he's different than other defenders on the field. And one thing that really stands out to me is the pace that he plays simple passes with. There's a lot of we have a high completion rate because we dink around with it at midfield. But to me, when he makes a pass, he's looking to get that ball going forward. He plays it with his left foot with precision and with real pace to get the ball moving forward that some guys miss. And I love watching him play because he's
there.
got that okay, if he's making that switch ball to Romero, it's coming in hotter than any other player is going to do it. Not in a way that's uncontrollable, but with let's get this thing going forward.
That's a really good observation because I think there was a ball into Madison in the first half. I remember right. I can't remember exactly, but he was way up the field and he was kind of looking around and he zipped this ball into the box. And that's the difference. And I think about Richarlison, particularly in the game before this one, where like every ball was a little short. It was just left.
Mm-hmm.
It was a soft touch and left a little short. But I mean, that's a great observation. Um, Yeah, he's just so good. But we can't rely on him getting back and the
no,
slide tackle and
No. And that's part of the problem when you're missing guys like Romero and Udogi. It's that high line. You're almost relying on Van de Ven to be that guy that gets back to save the day.
yeah.
And, it's
can't
not going
count
to
on
work every
Basuma.
time.
That
What'd you
goal
say?
from Basuma. Just
Yeah.
watching Basuma try and get back after losing that
I
ball was,
know.
and
I mean,
he was there. He
he
could have he
made
could
the
have done
run. That's the
something.
thing. You're going to run 100 yards and you're not going to like cover the guy.
But even running the 100 yard, it wasn't like he was. You look back, he was like kind of like, I'm gonna get back, and then he kind of gets back, but then he's like,
He
I'm still
was
not gonna go after it. Like
Yeah, that was I mean
weird.
okay, I can forgive him giving the ball up on their end in
Yeah,
their
get
box,
back.
but he got back and then he just did nothing.
No, he didn't. Sam, you sort of reminded me, like there was one time in that game where I got sort of inspired because Basuma made a turn in our defensive third, quick couple of touches brought him right sort of to midfield, and like the hustle that he had, I was like, all right, this is sweet. Then he passed the ball and it just stopped, and it was like,
Yeah.
like, he had this burst of energy, and then it was like sort of, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think
mean, that's
there's
just
a
a
lot
Piece the
of
game.
it's that. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like that burst, you know, when we scored, when Decky scored in the first, whatever, 1 or 2 minutes, you're like, okay, they've got it. They're, you know, this is going to be, you know, they're going to put a few minutes together, and then it just never materialized. It's like these little bursts, and they need to have some sustainable pressure and sustainable, like, being on the front foot. And I don't mean just sort of passing the ball around, but front foot and attacking.
And I don't think that we're
happen.
unique. And I think during the game, there was several comments made by the announcers, and you could hear it on TV, the frustration in the stadium that
Yeah,
a lot
that's
of
what
people were like, it's back to
I know.
a couple years ago. And like,
I don't like that. I wish they'd be. I just wish there were. It wasn't so, like, overtly.
yeah, non-supportive.
Yeah,
I hear
Which,
you.
but
I don't.
but you've also like you've grown accustomed to like it's the it again. It's just that lazy play that we continue to see. Like there were times like last season under Conte where it's like, all right, you played pretty good a game, and then all of a sudden you come out and it's just completely flat. No, you're not playing together. It's like here we go again. Or like
But
when we got Conte, and you're like, okay, we're gonna see a lot of people coming in and out and like being pushed away, and you're looking at the same team, and you got excited because you got rid of your Dyers, you got rid of some of these guys who were a part of that like core. You got rid of Kane, part of this core that like you thought we're going to stay to get like the manager thought was going to be a great core to have together, and then they're turning the same crap over again.
the crowd is reacting to stupid stuff. Like, they're groaning at, like, back passes and groaning at the speed of play, and I'm not sure if that's really what
So
they
it's
should be
not the lack of
doing.
effort; it's the
It's
yeah,
like, you're not the tactician. You're not the you don't you're not
right.
the you're not the coach. You're not asking them to play a certain way. You're just reacting to the way you think, the game should be played, but that's not necessarily
That's what we're doing
your
right here, aren't we?
role. And I just feel like it is. But if I were in the crowd, I don't think I'd be groaning at back passes. I would be groaning at, not a lot, really. I mean, I yell at the TV when Hoiberg misses a pass or does something stupid. That makes me mad. But it's not really I don't know. It's not really like the style, and that's not my job. That's Pasacoglu's job. Um, and I guess that's part of it. Like, and from what I understand, social media is just, they're probably all Russian bots,
Yeah, maybe.
but I guess they're all like ripping it and making it uncomfortable for people, and people on forums like this. And I don't really get it. I feel like when you think about having only lost one game out of the last six, and of those you won three, I'm not. It's disappointing that we didn't win, but like a loss happens. The problem I have now is that you've got 2 weeks. We have
Yeah.
no, and then, like, are they going to come out flat in the next game because they're not getting game time, because they're not getting, like, real live, like, I guess that concerns me a little
Can't.
bit.
Is it who do we have next? Is it Crystal Palace?
Yeah, at home. I mean, we have
That's
a
it,
couple
yeah.
of winnable, like, games,
Who's Crystal
you would
Palace's
think.
manager?
Well, that's the other thing. There's probably going to be a new manager bump. I'm not really sure who it is, but what's his face is giving up the
Yeah,
ghost.
yeah.
So
Hopefully we don't attach. I mean, because Crystal Palace
hopefully,
play this weekend, right?
I think so. I think
So
everybody does,
hopefully,
but us and
yeah. So
Chelsea.
hopefully somebody takes that new bump out of the Crystal Palace, and they can come over to us, and we can get that 2 week off
So
bump that we need, because we
I
do.
just
We need to come out. We need. I want a nice
I want a
victory.
nice
I
Six
want to.
three.
nothing.
I want to be up
Yeah.
3-0 at half and just, like, have them empty the bench and just, like,
See what some
Continue
of
to
those
score
new
goals.
signings are made of. Like,
yeah.
let them loose.
Yeah.
I hear you, and I think I'm going to continue to be optimistic. That 2 week window, I think you, as a as a manager and a team and his staff, you have to bury it into these guys that like, you got to come out and you got to score first, and you got to keep scoring and just put the pedal down. Don't give anybody reason to think that 2 weeks off is a bad thing.
And don't look like you've been playing every other day for the last 3 weeks. I think that's kind of the thing.
And I get the sense that that's the type of individual that Ange is. Like,
yeah,
this isn't
and
okay.
Again, going back to like, he's only had a window and a half, you could argue, but like, he wants to get people in that are going to play the way, he really doesn't have any attacking other than Madison and Johnson. There's nobody there that he really has brought in.
Warner?
Like, so Werner. Yeah. I mean, Werner, yeah. So 3 people. But I don't know that they're necessarily, they're not key cogs in the system. They're just sort of, I think Johnson can be.
Yeah, I think he can be too. I mean, I think dude's still super young. I mean, if there's an opportunity to mold somebody, it'd be Johnson.
And he's a pretty big kid for being as fast as he is. When they do the interviews after the game, I mean, he's pretty tall and strong, and I think I like him a lot, but he's getting bashed on social media.
Yeah. If we're thinking about the same thing, I think the biggest thing for him was that he cost a good chunk of change.
And again, it's not his fault. It's just
no. If anything, so he's doing his due diligence. He's playing good enough at another club to make somebody pay money for him. But that's sort of the going rate right now, right? I mean, you're paying for potential versus paying sort of some slightly older veterans for their talent. You're seeing it at Chelsea's, and you're seeing it at these big clubs where you're paying a ton of money for, I don't want to say unproven talent, but younger players.
Brighton players.
I'm happy. I think Johnson's going to be a good fit. I'm still indifferent on Warner. Like, I think he's good right now. I we'll see how the rest of the season
plays out. What's the risk? It's a loan.
No, as of no, that's what I'm saying is, like, as a future of this team, is sort of a take it or leave it guy for me right now. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out, and if he's somebody who we're like, no, we're going to sign this guy, or.
Did you see this? Sessegnon apparently played for the U21 team, and he got hurt.
Didn't he get pulled off on a stretcher or something?
It's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, I feel bad for the guy. Like,
yeah, but he's got. I mean, that's just what the heck.
Prior to coming to Tottenham, he was like the hottest young thing.
He started losing playing time, and I think he was getting hurt a little bit. But
because he had an initial injury, right, that kind of took him out of. Yeah, it was even before he came to Tottenham. I think he had a injury. But I remember he was like the wonder boy at
for a bit, and I think he caught a lot of people's eyes. But then even at Fulham, he started losing playing time because I guess he was becoming a little bit ineffectual. But anyway, what do you think, boys? Not a lot to talk about. It's disappointing that we lost, but that's all it is. It's a loss. It's not something to get like shitty about.
But you're the teams that are vying for that top 4 spot are.
I know. It was just such a bad weekend,
and you need you need
won.
any of these points, or even get 1 point, like get something to sort of just at least build a little momentum. Like, you really have an opportunity at a Champions League spot, and I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, well, maybe it's better that we're not in the Champions League. Like, no.
I think
Champions League is only going to bring you more money and
we need
people
Europe.
that want to play for you.
Whether it's Champions, it may not be Champions League, but we need Europe. We need those extra games. We need to build.
If we don't get Europe, that's a really big, that you're falling off the face of the earth, because there's the potential that the top 5 are Champions League.
We'll be there. I have faith.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot more to say, Sam.
I don't either. I am continue to be optimistic. I just sort of have a little bit of a lingering cold from that last game. I think just one thing that you were talking about I'd love to see more conversion on set pieces. I just feel like we've got, like you said, Johnson's a big guy. You throw Van de Ven there and a corner kick, like another big dude that, is physical, and would just love to start seeing some corner kicks go in and
Yeah.
set
Yeah.
pieces. And I think that there's room for that to happen. We're getting opportunities. It's just the conversion's not quite there. I'd like to see that tighten up, but
Yeah.
continue to
I'd
be
like to
optimistic.
I'd like to see if we're I don't know how you make this happen, but if we're getting stuck in these offensive thirds, I'm not seeing nearly enough fouls outside or around the box. Like we're getting not like I would like to see more attempts where it's not a corner kick that we're going for, but like some sort of free kick from outside the box. I don't feel like we're
Apparently, we lead the league in touches in the box, and we
I
have
believe that. I believe.
we have one penalty.
it's
So that's
beyond
probably a
ridiculous.
matter of being, well, it's a matter of being honest for one thing, but it's also like you're not taking any chances. So I think that we need to do a little bit more of that. It's like you can't always pass the ball into the goal. Sometimes you have to, and I think that's sometimes what we get stuck into trying to do is just being a little too
Walk it in.
cute. Yes.
Yeah.
You can't
And
just, we're not Barcelona. We're not Man City. We need to,
Make some
have
cracks.
have
Yeah.
a pop.
Yeah.
Even if it caroms off of somebody, you never
then
know where it's going to
then
go.
you're taking that chance though for a corner, right?
Well,
Then you
or
just
you're taking
increased your chances.
or you're taking that chance of a potential counter. And that is the risk too. I think, if you have a pop and it caroms off of a defender onto somebody that might be a little bit farther upfield, and then all of a sudden they're out, we have nobody back. I think
but like Wolves, great counter team. My first process thought is like when these teams are playing that slow block, like they've got everybody back. Like, yeah, you've got to be ready for that counter, but like we've got the players when healthy to be able to sort of, you think, break that up. Like your Van de Ven's, Romero's, they're not like sitting in the net, right? I mean,
And I think you
No.
you have a crack, and then you force the team to start to make decisions to you got to close out harder. You got to make sure that that ball doesn't make it to the goalie, and then you start to get those calls that you're talking about outside the box where you can put it on net. Like there are definitely pros to just peppering the net, and
it's a dares
at
to
some
do.
point you got to start trying. If you've got to look, just crack it.
I'm wholeheartedly agree.
But like I said, continue
All
to be
right, crack it.
optimistic. Yeah,
that's the theme of the day. Crack it.
why not? All right,
Love it.
fellas. Well, I
All
guess
right.
we've got a couple weeks before we reconvene, but
Maybe we could do something next week before the game
yeah.
Yeah.
to see if there are any like major injuries during training.
Well, don't put that out in the universe.
Tottenham said they didn't want to give Sam any bad juju for his birthday.
Yeah.
So we're going to cancel the game this weekend.
31. Ooh.
31. How about it?
Yeah. It's not even a real number
I
anymore.
start looking at AARP and
So at 31, how long have you been watching Tottenham? If I started in
on and off as long as you have.
6-ish, not a big chunk of your
still in my playing
life.
days. Yeah. All right, gentlemen.
All right.
COYS.